I know it's been a while, and I've been busy. And while today is November 24th, 2017, I really wanted to make this video 10 days ago, but I was busy. But anyhow, 10 days ago, it was 10 years that I've had this car now, that I brought it home from the dealership. And everyone's wondering, what is that X on that wheel over there? This X was just put there as a demarcation to not use these for highway use. These are the old rims off my brother's S series when he had that car. So these wheels are specifically just for this car, for when it sits, so that way I'm not putting flat spots on the car's good tires. So that's what these are all about. And obviously one of them was bent, so I have 3 of them, and then this gray one here is what I was using for, which I kept as a full-size spare tire because I was commuting so far away and I didn't want to use the donut should I blow a tire. So these are all old tires that I don't really care about, and that's why I have them on here now. I was finally forced to take it off the road. I mean, I probably could have kept it on the road a little longer, but my circumstances were what they were, and that's why I had to do it when I did it. The plate that was on this car was in circulation since 1991. And then my Toyota's registration was up for renewal by the end of this month. And I just wasn't going to have time because I am working such mad overtime. And because of that, it just so happened to be Thursdays when the DMV by my job site was open the latest, and it was on that Thursday that I didn't have to work overtime. So I just had to make my move then and there, and I so far wouldn't have had such time since. So I was able to save the plate that's been in circulation. The Cobalt's registration had just been renewed, so it was only $10 to transfer the registration. That saved me a bit of money, and saved some money on the insurance. So what had also gone wrong was that the check engine light came back on, and I figured at this point I'd just be pissing up a rope, because last time I tried fixing the check engine light, which was just 2 years ago, barely 2 years ago, it was just this, just this, just this, and the next thing I know, I had $1,500 tied up in a car that wasn't fixed, and it was just $300 more, putting $1,800 in the hole that finally got it fixed. As you all know, I got a new truck now, so I have other expenses I'm incurring, and again, it was just going to be pissing up a rope to try to fix the external systems that are going to manage the worn out engine. So at that point, I was just forced to draw the line and say, you know what, there's no point in doing anything to this car until it gets the new motor. Because last time I fell for it, it was almost $2,000 in the hole, and I was at pretty much 2/3 of the price of a new motor. So I just have a few other financial loose ends I want to tie first, and then I will begin the restoration of this car, but that's the point it has come to. So as you can see here, $220,490. Darn it. So close to $220,500. But considering that turns out the Family 2 Ecotech lifespan is $150,000, not $200 like I thought, that just means I got this engine to outlive its specs by a lot more than I had thought. If we swing around over here, yeah, I had put a new antenna base in there, the other one broke. But and no, I'm not looking to light the car on fire. I know somebody would suggest that this car has kind of acted like a little bit of a locker on wheels until I find a place to put this car. But here's the car cover I'm going to put on it once I completely seal up the undercarriage. I bought a nice tote for it. Keep all spare parts in here. Keep it nice and sealed away. That would have been the better way to do it. Really wish I could have taken this car out on the drive for you good folks out there. This was definitely not the 10-year video I wanted to make for this car, but again, my circumstances just were what they were. And to those who are asking me, does this car still run? Why, yes, it does. The secondary air injection just kicked out altogether. But again, I wasn't going to waste any more money on the external systems that are managing the engine until it's put in. Now, I had just run it recently because I did have to pull it out of the garage. But that's why it didn't smoke this time. But it did smoke when I did a couple of weeks ago. Yep, I had to push it out of the garage first in case it did smoke, and it did. Sometimes the pistons will slap around. You got to get up close to hear it, but the engine is warned. It is an oil burner. And that's all there really is to show on that. So some of the things I have done, so there's not too many adverse effects with this car sitting. One of the first things I did, and I had done this months prior to taking it off the road, I put in this Evans waterless coolant. So that way the block, the radiator, the core, none of that stuff is going to corrode. And even prior to that, before I discovered this stuff here, I was always changing the coolant every year regardless of condition. So nothing ever had a chance to corrode. The only thing that ever really went bad in the cooling system was the thermostat, which I eventually had to have redone by the dealer because the Chinese-made one from AutoZone didn't work after all. The other thing I did here, I tapped into this fuel rail. I had to swap out the fuel from the generator because it had sat so long. So all the fuel that was in this car was about half a tank. That makes about 6 gallons, give or take. I had put that fuel in the generator in the Cub Cadet. And then what I did, we had some fuel sitting in the gas cans. It wasn't that old. So I put a very high concentration of gasoline stabilizer, the fuel stabilizer, dumped it in this car's tank. And then what I did there, I bled the system. I ran the engine. I went out, ran some errands. So the engine was sitting there running for about an hour and a half. So now nothing but fuel with the high concentration of stabilizer is in this fuel rail and passing through the injectors. So it's definitely ready in that sense. And then you already saw how I put all the parts in a nice hard plastic tote. So that's what I did there. We had other stuff going on that was tying up the bay for this past summer. So this summer I'm going to get under there with my needle gun, chip away all the undercoating. I don't know how well the camera's going to pick it up. I'm on the ground here. But there's some areas that have some minimal surface rust. Just got to chip it away, reseal it with some POR 15, redo the undercoating. And then hopefully by then I will have found a place to put this car. Just haven't had much luck with that because storage is expensive, and the money I'm going to spend just to have this car sit for 1 year, I could just go buy the motor. So that's the predicament I am at the moment. So I'm just keeping it here just for now, and then hopefully after I do the final things I have to for this, I'll even have the exterior washed and buffed nicely, and then put on that car cover that you might have seen that I have folded up in the back seat. And then I just got to take care of the other things I got to take care of first before I do the restoration of this car. But I'm going to do it in that order, sort of, and then we'll see what comes of it then. Now, mind you, nothing's ever definite. Maybe I discover something really wrong and I have to send the car to the recycling bin. That's a possibility. Again, I'm just not going to say for sure what the future of this vehicle is, but right now it still seems like a very good one. I have worked very hard over the years to take amazing care of this car, so that way it will be worth restoring. So, just to close things out, let me answer the question right now so I don't have to write an essay in the description or the comments section why I want to restore this car. It's actually a financially sensible thing to do, even if it costs me 10 grand, because the cost of new cars are just out of control. This is my brother's Hyundai. It's a nifty little car. It's not a bad car. You want to talk about a car maker that really cleaned up its act. Definitely a far cry from the old XLs. But his final out-the-door cost, this is extended warranty, taxes, financing, almost 22 grand. That is nuts. That is insane. Again, it's not a bad little car, but even so, I feel like even if it's taken care of, I don't see this thing lasting 10 years. That's my biggest beef with all of this. You know, if it was still like the older cars where, okay, you take care of him, they'll be with you for the other side of 10, maybe even 15 years, I'd be cool with that, but even that's not the case here. So, why am I going to pay that for a new car when I can just restore this one over here for half the price? And the only unique attribute to the Cobalts, as troublesome as they can be, this car was the last of its kind. You can get it with no ABS, no traction control, no stability control. In other words, its pilot had to know how to drive and maybe use a little common sense. And if you weren't careful, just maybe the gene pool would get strengthened a little bit. So yes, sentimental value does play a little bit of a role in this too. This was my first new car. I've had it since I was 19. But I can restore this car for half the price of a new one, and I'll improve where GM left off, and then I can absolutely have this car for another 10, 15 years. Because I always complained, the newer these cars get, the more they suck. So if I'm complaining that this one sucks, how much is an even newer one gonna suck? And now you have to have all this crap on it to break down, which just further proves my point. So just thought I'd elaborate on that now, better explain myself on that.